world, it's Keely and I'm back for another video. This is going to be my book haul for the end of December and January. I am doing book hauls a little bit differently this year, at least that is my plan, where I am obviously going to be getting books and reading books, but I'm also hoping that at the end of each month when I do my wrap up, I can talk to you guys about how much I spent on books for the previous month, where I bought them from, because I'm trying to not purchase anything from Amazon or Barnes & Noble this year if I can. Barnes & Noble's been a little bit harder, but Amazon has been pretty easy to cut out. And then compare that to how much I saved by reading books from the library. So far, those two numbers do not match up. The library number is much higher for me for this month in terms of how many books I have finished from the library, and then one DNF. And that's a book that I potentially would have purchased because I thought I would have liked it, and I ended up DNFing it. So I will talk about that in my January wrap up. But also with my books this year, I'm trying to read, like I said, read more from the library, but just not buy as many physical books unless I know that there's something that I'm gonna write all over, or they were gifts, or there's something I've already read, they're part of series, things like that. I wanted to come on here and film a couple videos ahead of time because the next few weeks are going to be pretty busy, and then we go on vacation, and I just don't want to have to worry about missing my Friday uploads when it's been since the middle of August. I haven't missed a Friday, so I don't want to miss a Friday just because my life gets busy. I figured since it is Sunday afternoon, we're in the middle of a massive snowstorm right now, I figured I would just come on here and film a couple videos, get them ready, get them scheduled, and then I don't have to worry about it. Let's dive into the books because there's a lot. The first one is this one. This one is a literary letter for every day of the year, edited by Liz Isson. Now, I bought this one and gave it to myself as a gift under the tree for Christmas because last year I read a book called Bad Days in History, and every day was another like snippet. Sometimes it was like a quote, sometimes it was a paragraph, sometimes it was a couple pages worth of something shitty that had happened on that day in history. And I had such a fun time making my way through that book the entire year that I wanted to do it again this year, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. So this book actually just came out in October, and I'm so happy that I found a copy at one of my local indie bookstores and I bought it. And it's literally just a collection of letters for every day of the year by a bunch of different authors and then a bunch of different writers, and I am having such a fun time with it. What just fell out of it was this, which is some tabs. So the only thing that I wish I had done last year was tab off the like days throughout history that I thought were really interesting, or the people that I found really interesting, things like that. So that's the first book that I have. I'm having such a fun time with that one. Now I will show you the book that I got for my birthday. My sister got me this one, which is Never Whistle at Night, edited by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Alst Jr. This one is an Indigenous dark fiction anthology. I read this one from the library when it came out, and I absolutely loved it. It's been on my wish list since then to get a copy of, and a couple weeks ago my sister texted me and she was like, do you have any anthologies of like weird stories? So I sent her the list of the ones that I had, and she was like, okay, good. So she got me this one, thinking that I would really enjoy it, and she was right. I've already read this one and I do absolutely love it. Then I can show you the books that I got for Christmas from my husband. So he got me A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sango Mandana. Fortunately, I already had this book and I was reading it when he got it for me. Like I read it at the end of December into January, I think. And when I opened it, I was like, oh shit, like I do already have it. So that's okay. We just returned the one that he bought, and obviously I kept the one that I already have. This one is a super cozy fantasy about a woman named Sarah who used to be a very powerful witch. Then she has to resurrect her aunt that she's living with that dies in the garden. There is a fox that used to be a witch that turned into a fox that shows up. There's a love interest. It is super duper cute. Really loved it. Has autism representation as well. I just thought it was wonderful. I thought this one was so much better than the first book. They're not technically in a series, I don't think. They're just very similar. The first one was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which I also did really enjoy. I just thought this one was done a little bit better, so I did really enjoy this one. And my husband got me 3 more books. He got me The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley, and I've heard very mixed things about this one. Either you absolutely love it or you freaking hate it. And Emma from the channel Emmy really loved it, and I tend to enjoy the books that she does, so I'm hoping that I'm going to enjoy it. This one is a sci-fi, and I don't know a ton about it beyond that, and I don't really want to know more. I would like to go into it and just kind of experience it on its own, so I'm super excited for this one. And he also got me Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. This one came out very recently and people have been really loving it, so I'm super excited for it. This one has to do with shapeshifters. Other than that, I don't really know, but it was nominated for the Hugo, Nebula, and Locust, which is pretty incredible, so I'm hoping that I'm really gonna love this one. Then the last one he got me is this one, which I did read already. This one is Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fato. Now, Virginia Fato wrote Mrs. March, and it seems like if you love Mrs. March, you hated this one. If you love this one, you hate Mrs. March. I loved this one, and I DNF'd Mrs. March, so I definitely fall into that kind of, oh, that's so crunchy. I definitely fall into that, like, opinion. And this one is about Winifred, who arrives at Ensor House prepared to play the perfect governess. But she's like really messed up, and I honestly recommend that you don't read a ton about this one and just go into it. Just know that it's like a really screwed up horror about a governess and the two kids that she is teaching and taking care of. Do look up content warnings for this one though, but I thought it was great. And then the final book that I have to show you that I got for Christmas from my sister, she got me this one, which is Violent Awakening by KJ Sutton. This is the 6th and final book in the Fortuna Sworn series, which is an indie published series by KJ Sutton. I have been reading those books for the last few years. Was so excited that book 6 was coming out. It's the final book. I still need to read it. I've heard very mixed things, but you're never going to please everyone with series finales, so we shall see. And the reason that I asked my sister to get me this one when it came out was because I have the first 5 books in these covers. I was worried that this would be another series that gets picked up by a big publisher and then they change the covers, and I wanted them all to match. So now they do all match in this style, and I am so excited to read this one and have it with the other ones. This is a romantasy with all different kinds of magical creatures. There's fae, and Fortuna Sworn, the main character, is a nightmare, so she feeds on the fears and nightmares of other people, and I think that's really cool. So I'm very excited for that one. All right, I have a ton of nonfiction here, and then I have some classics and some regular fiction. Let me show you all of the books that I am currently reading. I've started a lot of these. The first one is Noise. This is A Flaw in Human Judgment by Daniel Kahneman, Olivier Sibony, and Cass R. Sunstein. This one is super fascinating so far. I've talked about it a couple different times on my channel, like in my curriculum video, in my currently reading video. So if you haven't watched those, this will be new to you. If you have watched those, you can just skip past this one. This one is looking at bias and noise in our decision making, and we know what bias is. Noise is the thing we don't typically consider, and noise is basically like the mood that you're in when you're making decisions, and how everything else happening in your life can impact your decision making. So you might not be as objective as you think you are, and they talk about a lot of different studies that have shown that the way that people feel, the things that they experience day to day, one of the things they pointed out was like if your favorite sports team lost the night before and how that impacts your decision making the next day. It's just ridiculous and so fascinating, and I've read about 60 pages of it and haven't picked it back up in the last few weeks, but that's only because I've been a little bit pissed off about this one, but also because I've been reading a lot of other really good things. Pissed off in that it's just annoying to find out how not objective we are, which I did know that, but it's a different thing to actually read it. Then I'm also reading this one, which is Empire of Normality, Neurodiversity, and Capitalism by Robert Chapman. This one is looking at neurodivergence and how people that have neurodivergence do not fit into this perfect employee version of capitalism, and the ways that that impacts the author's upbringing and his life currently as someone who has neurodivergence. It is from the lens of a white person living in the UK, and he does point that out at the beginning, like, hey, I know that my view is very specific, and I just want to acknowledge that I'm not including a lot of other groups of people, and I just thought that was great that he pointed that out. I am very much enjoying that one. I am also reading Perfect Victims by Mohammed El-Kurd. This is Perfect Victims and the Politics of Appeal. This is a bunch of different sections written by this author who is a Palestinian writer, poet, journalist, and organizer from Jerusalem, occupied Palestine. and it's looking at how the world views people that are living in Palestine and how we are pretty horrible to the people living in Palestine and always have been, how different cultures have constantly tried to take over Palestine and do horrific things to the people there, and then how it gets kind of just pushed aside and accepted and pushed into the narrative of like who is worth our time and attention and our money and who isn't. This one is absolutely gut-wrenching to read, but I think it's incredibly important that especially people in the United States are reading right now. It's just incredible, but so hard to read. Then I'm reading a fiction. I'm reading this one, The Funeral Crier by Wenyan Liu. This is a debut from a Chinese author set in China about a woman that is a funeral crier. So she is hired to be kind of really dramatic and cry at funerals. And because of that, there's a lot of stigma attached to her. People basically think that she's cursed, that she'll bring the spirits of the dead with her back home. And I know there's going to be like a big twist, but I don't know what it is yet because I haven't read that much, but I am really enjoying it so far. Then we've got 2 more nonfiction and then 2 fiction that I'm currently reading, and then we can get into the rest of the books. I'm very much in the mood to start books right now, so I just keep picking up more. And this doesn't even include the book that I'm currently reading on my Kindle, but that one I've had for a couple years, so that's not part of this haul. Then I am reading Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire with a new introduction by Donaldo Macedo, who was a friend of Paulo. And so far I have only read the first 9 pages, which is just part of the introduction. The introduction's like 30 pages. This one was published in Portuguese in the 60s and then in English in the 70s. And this is looking at oppression and who is oppressed and who gets to be an oppressor. And there's way more to it than that, but I haven't read this one in over 10 years and I don't remember anything from when I first had to read it for school, so that's why I am reading it now. And the final one that I'm reading that is nonfiction is this one, which is Slavery, Friends, and Freedom in Bucks County by Patricia L. Mervine and Joseph Coleman. This one is a historical nonfiction looking at the history of slavery as it pertains to Pennsylvania, specifically Bucks County, and this book benefits the African American Museum of Bucks County, which I know they are still building. They haven't finished it yet, but when I saw this at my local indie bookstore, I wanted to get it to support the museum and also to learn about Pennsylvania and the history and the role in the slave trade. And I did do a deep dive on my grad school last year. It was last year. I went to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia for grad school, and they have a very long history of being involved in slavery in terms of like when it got started and the buildings that are named after enslavers, and it's just crazy. And then the things that are happening in Philadelphia with the history posters, I don't know what you'd call them, posters, billboards that were on a historical building in Philadelphia that were pried down as if that's going to do anything in terms of what people know has happened in history in Philadelphia. But I just wanted to learn more. Now into the fiction that I am currently reading. I started this one yesterday. This one is The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. I've always heard it say that way. I know it's not. Is it Dubois? It is by Honoré Fanon Jeffers. This one is a massive historical multi-generational family story. And it is about Ailey, who is coming to terms with her own identity. She embarks on a journey through her family's past, uncovering the shocking tales of generations of ancestors, Indigenous, Black, and white in the Deep South. Along the way, she must learn to embrace her full heritage, a legacy of oppression and resistance, bondage and independence, cruelty and resilience that is the story and the song of America itself. So I read the first 20 pages. And I am writing on this one as I'm reading it and like highlighting stuff. So I'm really enjoying this one. This one will definitely be one that I'm reading through February as well. I also thought I had a copy of a nonfiction of W.E.B. Du Bois' writing. If I did, I must have donated it because I can't find it anywhere, and I really need to get a copy so I can read it along with this one. but I'm very much enjoying it. And the final one that I'm currently reading is this one for my James Baldwin slow read. This is Go Tell It on the Mountain. It's along the top, and this is his first published novel. He started writing it when he was 17. It's semi-autobiographical about a boy named John that lives with a sister and a brother. Him and his brother butt heads a lot. His brother is very rebellious against their dad. For John, it's his stepdad, and I can't remember if it's the brother's bio dad or stepdad, but this is very much like following the life of James Baldwin when he was growing up. I am writing all over it because along with reading James Baldwin's works, I am also reading a lot about his life, and so I can see all of the ways that this parallels what he was probably experiencing as he was growing up, and I'm just having a great time with it. I really enjoy James Baldwin's writing. You can see I'm almost halfway through this one. I am reading it slower because I'm writing all over it. The ant is one of my favorite characters, so I just flipped to a page where I wrote, like, I put a star next to the ant and I wrote love her. So enjoying that, having a great time with this one. Okay, since I was just talking about James Baldwin, we can go into the other books that I have by and about him. After I'm done with Go Tell It on the Mountain, I will be picking up one of his nonfiction essay collections. This one is Notes of a Native Son, and it's got a new introduction by Edward P. Jones. This is the one that I've heard about the most in terms of his nonfiction. Besides, I'm gonna get this wrong, I think he wrote The Fire Next Time, and there's a response book in the last few years called The Fire This Time, or flipped. It's something like that. But this was also just one that my local indie bookstore had, and so that's why I bought it. Very excited for that. And then I have some books about James Baldwin. I have a big list in my reading journal of books that he wrote, essays, short stories, all of that, along with books written about him that I would like to get through this year. So the first one we have is Begin Again by Eddie S. Glaude Jr. This is James Baldwin's America and its Urgent Lessons for Our Own. So this is comparing what's happening now and has been happening in the last couple of years in the United States to when James Baldwin was alive in the 30s and 40s with the civil rights movement, and like now Black Lives Matter. And I just think it's going to be really fascinating as I continue to learn about James Baldwin and his writing to also see how it parallels with what's happening right now. And then I wanted to pick up a biography of him, and there are so many books written about James Baldwin. There's a huge one called, is it called James or is it called Baldwin, that I picked up at the bookstore. It's like this freaking big. When I was looking through all of the books that have been written by him, this was the one that stuck out to me the most. So this one is James Baldwin by David Leeming, who was a friend of James Baldwin. He was his assistant for 4 years and a friend of his for 25 years. So I'm really hoping that that means that this is a more accurate, as accurate as you can be writing about someone that you knew, because our experiences of people and events are always going to be skewed from what they actually are, just because memory sucks. But I'm really hoping that this one is going to teach me a lot. I'm very excited to get to this one. Sorry, it's like dark in here and I just have my ring light, so it's super shiny. We've got 2 more stacks. I have a collection of nonfiction, shocker, and then I have a collection of classics. So the first one that I have to show you guys is this one, which is The Will to Change by Bell Hooks, Men, Masculinity, and Love. I read, was it Feminist Theory by Bell Hooks from the library, and I really, really loved it. And I ended up having a big conversation with my husband about the section that was on men and their relationship to feminism, and I then saw this one at the bookstore and I was like, okay, this will be the next one that I read, specifically looking at men. I just think it's going to be really fascinating, and my husband and I like having conversations about this kind of stuff, so I am very excited to have more Bell Hooks to read, and specifically looking at men. Then I have a memoir. This one is Hijab Butch Blues by Lamia H. This one won the Stonewall Book Award. I'm trying to read more memoirs. That was a goal from last year that I didn't do very well on, but I'm trying to read more memoirs, especially right now with my Q1 curriculum that has a lot to do with identity. And I think this one is going to be incredibly fascinating, and I'm hoping I'm really going to love it because I've been hearing great things. And this one is about it's a coming of age memoir by a queer hijabi Muslim immigrant who, by interpreting stories from the Quran, finds the strength, purpose, and self-acceptance to finally build the life she wants. I think it's going to be great. And I have this one, which is About Us, edited and introduced by Peter Catapano and Rosemary Garland Thompson. This is a collection of essays from people with disabilities that was published in the New York Times, and I didn't read it as they were coming out, so this is a collection of all of them, and I am very excited to read that one. I will be picking it up soon. And then I have this one, which is Year of the Tiger, An Activist Life by Alice Wong. I read Disability Visibility, which is a collection that she edited. Unfortunately, she died last year. I had followed her on Instagram, and I figured that now, you know, this is as good a time as any to pick up her book and learn more about her life and her activism. So I'm very excited to get to this one. Then we have a collection of classics. These are particularly Black classics. Every year, most of us on BookTube want to read more classics, and myself included. Typically, I say I want to read more like Mary Shelley and Jane Austen and Charles Dickens and all of that, which is fine. I really enjoy all of their writing. And James Baldwin actually really enjoyed Dickens, so I've been seeing that kind of come up in his writing too. But I also really am trying this year to read more intentionally, more diversely, and read more Black authors. I have a couple different challenges that I am doing, and one of them is to read at least 20 books by Black women, and that has been working out great because I've been trying to also work my way through Octavia Butler's work and N.K. Jemisin's backlog of books that I haven't read from them. I think I've already read 4 or 5 books from Black women so far this year, and I'm going to continue that. On top of that, on top of wanting to read Black classics and also read from Black women, I also am going to be making my way through, hoping to do vlogs in the future, no promises, vlogs in the future, reading books that are banned in Pennsylvania schools, because I think that's crazy. Some of the books that all of the books that they're banning in Pennsylvania schools, absolutely crazy. And some of them are Black classics, and of course we know why those are getting banned. I want to read them. So the first one that we have is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I have never read any Toni Morrison. I have owned many of her work off and on over the years, and I've just never completed any of them, so I figured that this one would be a good one to start with. I want to know why Pennsylvania authorities are banning this. I want to know why. I want to know what they're trying to hide. So I am excited for this one. Another one is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Again, one I've had copies of over the years and I have never picked up, and so I would like to fix that. I'm trying to read a combination of like really well-known Black classics mixed with ones we haven't heard of. So these two I feel like are definitely two of the more popular ones. This one is also pretty popular, but I don't hear as many people talking about it, and that one is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I started reading this one a couple of years ago with a colleague, and then we both fell off, and then we both got different jobs and we never finished it. I have a new copy and I would like to work my way through it. And then one that I had never heard of, I've never seen anyone talk about this author, and at least people that I've watched. So if this is an author that you've read from and you make videos, please let me know, because I would like to hear your opinion on his work. He unfortunately just died, so he was popping up in my feed and I was like, oh, that's weird timing. But I picked up Wizard of the Crow by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and I know I'm butchering that. I watched videos of him pronouncing his name, and he pronounced his first name, to me it sounded like Googie, but I know that I just don't have the vowel sounds. I haven't been taught or trained myself or like really tried to learn how to pronounce his name, so that is how it is spelled. So this one is a California Book Awards gold medal winner. It has a quote on the back from John Updike. In exile now for more than 20 years, Kenyan novelist, playwright, poet, and critic, Ngugi has become one of the most widely read African authors. Commencing in Our Times and set in the fictional Free Republic of Iberia, Wizard of the Crow dramatizes the corrosive humor and keenness of observation, a battle for control of the souls of the Iberian people. Fashioning the stories of the powerful and the ordinary into a dazzling mosaic, this magnificent novel reveals humanity in all its endlessly surprising complexity. I am very excited to read from a Kenyan author, read from someone I've never heard of before, and also read from someone that was in exile for speaking up. So very excited for that. That is it. That is all the books that I have acquired recently. Some of these were gifts, some of these I used gift cards for. Other ones I purchased, all of them were from local bookstores except for a couple that were from Barnes & Noble, and that was because I had gift cards. But the ones that I actually paid for were from Labyrinth Books in Princeton, which is an amazing independent bookstore that is also part of Princeton University's campus bookstore. So you can buy academic books from professors from Princeton, and then also like common fiction that's popular and things like that. I love that bookstore. If you are a dork like me and you enjoy reading academic work, I highly recommend that bookstore. And then the other bookstore is, there was two other bookstores actually. Commonplace Reader in Yardley, incredible independent bookstore. And the third one is the Doylestown Bookshop, which is another independent bookstore. I don't go to the Doylestown Bookshop that often. I go to Commonplace Reader and Labyrinth Books more than anywhere else. Went to the Doylestown Bookshop for my birthday, so that was super fun. Okay, these are all the books that I have to show you guys. Other books that I've acquired, brought in, have been from the library, and I already talked about those. So if you've read any of these, let me know what you thought of them. If you are interested in joining me in the James Baldwin slow read, let me know. I don't know if I'm going to do vlogs or I'm just going to talk about the books that I'm reading, because I'm also kind of trying to do it for like myself and just enjoy it. But let me know if you'd like to join in, and I will chat with you about the books. Let me know if you also have any other Black classics or classics written by non-white authors that you would recommend. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.